simple question. You started back in the beginning, not a few episodes in. What was it like working for the X Files?
Well, the the really special aspect of working for X Files was that when I was working, the the scripts were really good. The writing was superior to most television writing, and that was particularly true for Deep Throat because everything that he dealt with was oblique. It was he was never straight on, um, and that's really kind of wonderful to play with and to deal with. Um, and the surrounding personnel, I mean, the camera people, the um, all the others were wonderful to work with. They all went out of their way to make it a reasonable event. Um, and my particular experience was was particularly nice for me because I was pretty busy in those days, and I would ordinarily fly in for the day before, and the next day I would shoot. Maybe I would shoot one more day, and I was out of there. And I really only knew David. He's the only person I dealt with um, in terms of cast, um, and that was remained the same until they shot me. That's when I I first met Jillian. Um, so that's sort of my experience with the shooting. But they went out of their way to make it possible for me to come in, get the work done, and go to the next job. Um, so that it was, you know, uh, really interesting, and the material was always good. We were all impressed. David and I talked often about how how well written we thought the material was.
Did you have a particular favorite writer when you were working on the show that impressed you more than others?
You know what? Those names are long gone out of my head.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
No worries.
I got this.
Um,
I got this.
you got it.
Could you imagine while you were shooting this that you'd be discussing it 25 years later and that your character in the show would have such an impact?
When we were shooting that first season, we pretty much figured it would not last beyond that season. It was running something like 80 in the ratings. I mean, it was as near the bottom as you can get without them shutting the show down. So our sense of its longevity was negligible. And we knew that there was an order, so that the first year anyway was a done deal. But beyond that, we didn't we didn't have much expectations.
um, your character was so integral in the show, really the beginning of the conspiracy and whatnot, and it allowed you to come back over the years, including being mentioned in season 11 earlier this year. Um, what was your favorite part about playing such a mysterious character such as Deep Throat?
I think I've already touched on that. Is that I really was very pleased with the material, the writing. Um, it it stimulated my feeling about who Deep Throat was. It was a wonderful stimulus for uh, a man who appears to have such extraordinary powers and information, but is very careful about what he says. Um, and he never really hits it on the nose. He always is sort of inferring what is necessary. Um, and so all of the background for the character was at up to me, and so I created my own background for him, and that's what I operated on, and they seemed to like it. So
Well, we liked it. We always
Good.
liked it.
Okay, great. You had mentioned that you would fly in for a day or so to shoot your episodes. Was there a specific memory that you'll always remember about shooting the X-Files? Anything special or interesting that happened during your time on the show?
You know what? I don't have. Um, I really don't recall anything particular. The most vivid memory, I guess, at this point in time was the episode in which they shot me. Um, we had been shooting all night, and that the scene for which I was to be shot, they needed to get before sunup, so they were pushing really hard to get that done before the light changed drastically. But it was cold, and both Jillian and I were sitting in the car trying to keep warm while they were setting up the lights and the sound and coordinating the other vehicles and whatnot. Um, so that was that whole setup took longer than usual, but there was great pressure to quick get it before the light changes. Um, and once we had shot it and everybody was okay with the shot, um, Chris came up to me and said, "Get in the car with me. I want to take you down somewhere." And I said, "Oh, okay." And we drove down to where the trucks were for the dressing rooms, and everybody was down there, pretty much all the crew and everything. And he opened a bottle of champagne, and we all had a drink for the demise of Deep Throat.
Even though you would come back so many times in the show, in various forms.
Well, he said at the time, he said nobody ever really dies on X-Files. So.
We used to hear that quote a lot when we were, and we always hoped that that was the case as fans. If there was one thing you could say to your fans over the last 25 years, what would you say to them?
Thank you for watching. It's what paid our bills in the long run.
That's an honest answer.
Hey, it works. It
Good
works.
answer.